we now come to this. The one movie that is, without a doubt, the biggest pop culture reference entirely of not just the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, but the Macy's company in general. And that is the 1947 holiday classic, Miracle on 34th Street. From a story idea by Valentine Davis, director George Seaton decided to write this script and direct the film that we all know today, where an old man under the name of Kris Kringle, who believes that he is Santa Claus, ends up going to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade starting line and finding out that the person that is playing Santa in the Macy's parade is intoxicated and he is not taking it seriously. So he goes to speak to the manager of the entire parade, or any managers of big major events, Doris Walker. After they found out that he is intoxicated, she asked him to take the position as Santa for the 1946 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, since that was the year when this movie was being filmed, by the way, to not just be the Santa Claus for the parade, but even at least for the first days for Macy's department store's Santa Claus meet and greet. Not also that this Kris fella did phenomenally well, but also for the business as well, as Mr. Macy's has found out that what Kris is doing is not really also making specifically the customers kind of anxious or almost making them losing the business, but more specifically in the Christmas spirit to make the children happy. Especially when he is almost like what some people believe, that he is in a Santa character instead of actually being himself. So after trying many times to figure it out if he is the real Santa Claus or not, it doesn't really prove much after many tests that he has done, both health and psychologist. This is even more of a discussion with Doris's daughter, Susan. Susan's not the typical girl that gets into the major Christmas spirit, especially since she doesn't believe in Santa Claus. But it is a possibility now after seeing him interacting with all the kids, especially one in Dutch, and all of the discussions they had, not just at the office, but when Kris was at Doris and Susan's apartment. But things get a little bit complicated when the psychologist of the department store kind of do a bit of a lawsuit on Kris because of what he kind of did to him after hitting him on the cane, even though it was kind of on purpose after when Kris tried to defend one of the employees, specifically the young janitor, Charlie. So it's up to Doris's neighbor, Fred Gailey, to prove that this Kris Kringle is the real Santa Claus. As much as I'm a big Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade fan I'm going to be honest and saying this right now. This is my first time ever watching Miracle on 34th Street. This might be a bit of a shock for many of you because of how my advocacy for this parade is always be. But I never got the opportunity or never even thought of considering of watching the film. I just felt like I was not going to be interested because I know for a fact the parade was not going to be the main focus. Which is not, because it mainly takes like the first 15 minutes or so of the movie, even if Macy's is the main center point. Me watching this during the Thanksgiving season instead of the Christmas season may be a bit off for me on trying to get this a bit of a positive review, I would say, because it's just that not the right season to review this movie, I would say. Then again, this episode is being released on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, when I'm actually recording this on the 20th of this Wednesday. I did had a bit of time of thoughts here to think about what is the main scenario of the movie, and obviously the big scenario is the big message is believing. Now, I actually do love how the movie does not really bring up the big message until the hour point of the film, where the big massive climax is going to be coming with the courtroom scenes and everything. And I just love that they didn't really stick with the belief thing or even that word entirely throughout the entire movie. And I have to give praise for George Seaton's writing on that for not putting that throughout the entire movie, because it might have been a bit of annoyance. As for the whole concept of this Kris Kringle actually making Macy's an interesting corporate for the holiday season, it is very interesting because obviously that was the 1940s we're looking at, and we're in the 2020s. When Macy's decided to kind of collaborate with one other store that's like a block or two just by their store area. I forgot what it was called in the movie, and actually almost like do a massive holiday collaboration, like somewhere in the middle point with like the one scene where both of the heads meet each other with, well, specifically the photo they took with Santa Claus, of course, and would not see that in a movie today. I'm not sure about the 1994 remake. Not going to go into that film because obviously that's a different story. But it's just like in today's standards, you would not see that. It's just like that's just something that would happen, obviously, like in the 40s, especially since it is like, since the movie would set place in 1947 because of the 47 parade. It's just like they're just 2 years fresh out of World War II. So, as for the Macy's parade part, obviously the hero of the baseball player scene was pretty unique, obviously, for what it is, especially the lines. But there's just nothing much, and I think the baseball player is the only balloon you see in the entirety of the parade, Harold specifically. You just don't see any other balloons, or like there have been some floats, obviously the Santa sleigh one, which is odd. It's not at the very end in the lineup in the floats at the very beginning scene, but it is obviously at the end. Now, I am questioning, it was Edmund Gwenn actually the legit real Santa Claus throughout the entire 1947 parade, like the entire parade itself, which I'm assuming they did. I haven't read the behind the scenes thing. It's been a while since I have looked behind the scenes of the movie itself, but I'm pretty sure it was filmed during that time. Let me know in the comments if I'm getting this wrong. So let's talk about the Kris Kringle center of the entire movie, of course, played by Edmund Gwenn. One thing to note about this is that Edmund Gwenn actually won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his performance as Chris in this movie. Yep, that's right. This movie is an Academy Award winning film. It actually did got 2 Oscars for this performance and for Best Story for Valentine Davis. Not for like Best Screenplay or anything like that. Which actually it did won for Best Writing Screenplay and Best Writing Original Story. It was up for Best Picture but lost to Gentleman's Agreement. And it really had made a massive impact, by the way, with all the others, which I will talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. But let's talk about Edmund Gwenn's performance here, and it really is an amazing performance as he does at the very beginning. But then it just like, obviously he's not the real main character, because the problem with this movie is that there is not a legit true main character of this movie. Yes, I know that Maureen O'Hara and John Payne are first credited, especially on the front posters, but they're not really the main characters. Like, it almost felt like with Maureen at the very beginning, but then, like, John kind of almost takes, like, a bit in, like, the second half. I wouldn't say they're co-leads, because it's a bit difficult. Like, you can understand, like, with movies with two characters having the equal amount of screen time together if they're, like, a duo lead, but when it comes to something like that, it's just kind of confusing of who is the legit true main character. I thought Chris was, but I can understand now why he went for supporting, because this movie feels more like an ensemble piece, more so than who is the legit main character of the movie. It's just like all of them are just focused on each of them respectively, especially the four that obviously we mainly follow. Gwen really does great in the first half, but then he doesn't really talk much throughout the second half of the movie specifically, especially during the Master Trial, because Daly obviously takes the center stage, obviously. Maureen O'Hara really does do a good performance in the very beginning of the movie, especially since she's playing a single mother and dealing with the situation she has doing with the holiday season, especially with the relationship she has with Chris, because she obviously has to really make some massive decisions, especially since, as I just mentioned, she gets a single mother, and if she does something bad, boom, her job is done. But what I would have to say gave the best performance of the entire movie, and definitely my favorite character, is without a doubt Susan Walker, played by Natalie Wood, on her featured film debut when she was just 8 years old. This is a phenomenal child performance, especially for a motion picture debut, because it's not the typical kid scenario you would think in major live action Christmas movies or any Christmas movies in general. Because she is playing like a kid that obviously doesn't believe in Santa Claus, but doesn't even feel like she's even a child at all. Obviously, because since she is just the daughter of a single mother, because obviously she never met her father in general. And then here comes Chris, and he tries to make sure that not also that her life is happy, but also that she is happy for her mother as well, especially the big wish she has of getting her own home for Christmas. Not in an apartment complex, but an actual legit house. All the scenes she has with Chris is just so unique, whether it be obviously a what kind of an animal are you and them trying to become a monkey, or with her just chewing bubble gum when she's in bed. It's just that's interesting to say the least. And like any of the scenes they have, it's just not the typical you would think, oh, the miserable child. This is more like a child that just like you understand where she's coming from. She almost feels like she's like an adult, but even though she is not. And that's what make that not just with Seaton's writing, but with the performance by Natalie Wood is just phenomenal. It is unfortunate though that she did died tragically at the young age of 43 in 1981. And if she actually did live through the 100th Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, she would have been 88. But unfortunately, some sort of tragic accident sadly took her own life. Now, I had actually watched this movie through Disney Plus, and our family just recently did the Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max bundle. And unfortunately did came with ads, so it kind of made a little bit of a distraction throughout my time watching the film. It's just the problem is I think I'm not really as big as I used to when I first saw it just like a day or so ago. And obviously with the whole setting in the 1946 Macy's Parade, I should mention, so that was kind of a bit of a mistake in my part throughout this video. Um, I just feel like I'm not really a big fan of the film as I thought I was going to be. I mean, it is definitely a heartfelt, heartwarming movie, but I just feel like it doesn't stand to me as a movie per se. I feel like it almost feels like some sort of more of a special, I would say. Like, not Hallmark levels, I would say. That's just ridiculous. It's just like, it's a movie that I just would go back to like in about 10 years or so. And even though the black and white definitely look really nice, even though I have seen some snippets of some of the color moments through a couple of videos, but I've not watched the entire movie in color, maybe that might do it. Um, but I just felt like since this movie doesn't have a clear lead on who the main character is, and although it has a great message, I think I might consider this movie a bit overrated. But I know this is a tradition for many people, especially for Macy's Parade fans, to watch this movie every year during the holiday season. It's just, I feel like, since it's not all on Thanksgiving Day and it's just more like throughout between Thanksgiving and Christmas, that's where the whole setting in the entire movie takes place. And with that said, that is the last episode of Macy's Parade and Pop Culture. I thank you guys for joining with me for the past 10 videos of me going through the realms of pop culture in the Macy's Parade. So, hope you all have a great Thanksgiving.